with us today. He may be joining late, and then Member Haney is not with us today. President Haley, you have a quorum.
Great. And just as a quick reminder to all of our virtual participants, please make sure your cameras are on oh, we have a slight delay. Uh, um, please keep your
It's me.
The voice of God. Uh, we'll just make sure our cameras are on during voting and also to unmute when we are voting. So with that, I'll do my president's report. So just in the last couple of weeks, we've had Charter School Weekend, also Teacher Appreciation Week. I just want to commend many of our educators have really helped pave the way for many of us to have that firm foundation. So I just want to extend my gratitude to our teachers. Also, high school graduations are about to happen. I think many of our schools end this week. So I know that many of you all are busy. I'm also really impressed. We've talked about this at great length, but just the number of high school seniors that are graduating with their associate's degree, like last week, and then they'll graduate this week with their high school diploma. I just really commend our school leaders and our community colleges for making that possible. Of course, I'm super excited about our Students of the Month and our Teacher of the Year. We're really excited to hear from you today. But one thing that has been top of mind, I think, for many board members is that there have been several extremely concerning incidents of educator misconduct in the news. And I want to stress that this board, every single member, takes educator misconduct very seriously. We are very committed to protecting our children. We want all of you to know, and those that are watching, that we investigate every formal allegation that is submitted to the board. In fact, we have an incredible investigative team. They are retired law enforcement and military personnel, and they take their work protecting our children very seriously. Per statute, we cannot share the details of the cases that we are investigating until the action is completed by the board. So, and as a result of that, because of our inability to share information during that process, it does not mean that the important work is not occurring at every level, including our dedicated members of our Professional Practices Advisory Committee. These are educators from across our state who are volunteering their time to make sure our classrooms are safe. And just in general, I want to give a quick overview of the sequence of events that happens to the enforcement actions process. We advertise this on our website. We communicate this in briefings that happen with school districts across the state. But just to quickly run through, an allegation of immoral or unprofessional conduct is reported to the state Board of Education investigative unit. The next step is that a parallel investigation by applicable authorities takes place. So law enforcement, so those are happening sometimes simultaneously. Third, once an investigation is concluded, an educator may be offered what is known as a negotiated settlement agreement. They also might be offered a form to surrender their certificates or right to work in an Arizona district or charter school, or they go before the Professional Practices Advisory Committee, or the PPAC. Following that hearing, the PPAC will vote to adopt the findings of fact, the conclusions of law, and recommendations to the board on discipline for that respondent. Other cases are adjudicated through additional processes. The board reviews all cases, including the PPAC recommendations, and then it votes to adopt, alter, or dismiss discipline for respondent or the applicant. Applicant is in those educators that are applying to teach in our public schools. The board's discipline process is overseen by board staff, and the compliance with the negotiated settlement agreements and the review of persons who apply to the board after a disciplinary action are also monitored. Few other notes. Since 2012, the board has tracked 1,876 cases. In 2024, 325 cases were adjudicated, and it was a 19% increase from 2023 to 2024. The board absolutely prioritizes protecting our kids. To address the expanded caseload and to make sure every allegation is thoroughly reviewed, we've doubled the number of investigators handling educator misconduct. We've also increased the number of members who serve on our PPAC to increase efficiency in the cases that are reviewed and to make sure that that process is continuously going forward. You can see the data illustrating our team's incredible good work in our annual educator discipline reports, which can be found on our website. And I should note, at our June meeting, we'll receive the 2025 report. So we are looking forward to seeing the progress that has been made. So again, I'm super grateful to all that are here, but just wanted to know that we take protecting our kids very seriously. And with that, Superintendent Horn, your report, please.
In the interest of time, I won't have a report this week.
Okay. With that, the best part of the meeting, Executive Director Ross.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. This is the best part of the meeting where we get to acknowledge and honor two amazing kids from across our amazing state. We have two kids with us today that I'm very excited to hear from and learn from. First up is going to be Wiley Joe. He's an 8th grade student at Chinle Junior High in Apache County, was nominated by Principal Sean Martin, is captain of the cross country team, cheerfully encourages teammates, is a member of National Honor Society, exceeds community service time, is a positive role model and violin teacher for younger students, is student council president, and is respectful, confident, and motivated to succeed. Wiley, why don't you come on up?
All right. Make sure I'm a little prepared today. Did I have it? Yeah. All right. Ja, Bene. Wiley Joe Yinishia. Can you ani nisha tenazani bashichin kinlichini dashiche togli dashinele? Good morning to you all, State Board of Education. Sorry. This has been? Okay. Yeah. My name is Wiley Joe, and I attend Chinle Junior High School, and I'm an 8th grader from Chinle, and I just want to say my clans, they represent the Towering House people, I'm born for Waterflow Together clan, and my maternal grandfather's clan is Red House, and my paternal grandfather's clan is Tangle clan. My mother is Michelle Edsity, and my father is Randy Joe. My maternal grandparents' names are Rita Edsity and Jean Edsity. My paternal grandparents are Eileen and John Glenn Joe. I have two siblings today. My older brother's name is Jesse Joe, and my little sister's name is Kaden Joe. All right. To start this off, I just want to say that my school has provided many opportunities, and the support that all my teachers and especially Mr. Sean Martin, he has provided with me. And being with all this time from elementary, I've been learning more, and I wanted to more just start to teach others and to lead upon other kids and to influence them to make our community stronger and better. And all the teachers and staff at my school providing all the support for me, and especially my own band teacher, Mr. Patrick Baker. And I'm just glad that he was there for me almost every day, and especially during events, performances, or anything. He was always there, and even during school. And yeah, so as well for my activities, I partake in band and orchestra. I am also a member of the National Junior Honor Society, and I also partake in sports, especially in cross country and track. And how this helps me is it's a great way to connect and cooperate with others in track and cross country. I work with a team, and I show them how things are done. And it's more of the things of working with other people. And that's how I like to go with my life, working with other people, not going solo, not thinking I could do it myself. But I'm just glad I can do everything, especially with all my support that I get from teachers. And my accomplishments I have achieved was ever since I started playing the violin in 5th grade, I have achieved by obtaining the title of concertmaster at the White Mountain Region Honors Music Festival held at St. John's High School last fall. And it was a good experience working with a whole other people I never knew. And it was just talking to them and just working together. That's the best part that I had being there. And the National Junior Honor Society, it's it's a great way to be able to get people to for a community, working without no pay. I like how that works. It's mainly when you do something good, and that's when you have no payback. You do it for the good, and if the support that I've gotten is, how would you say this? It's it's very great from teachers, and I believe that what you guys are doing is very much greatly appreciated. I appreciate all the teachers and staff that they do, the support they provide with me every day, and especially when I'm not there. And here today, they always, right before I left Friday, they told me, you can do this, and they said they were very proud. And I take this influence upon my own family members. I've seen how they are. They shown me what good things they've done, and I take what they've done and I apply that to my own life. And I do the same for my own teachers and staff. They shown me all the great things. And for my plans for high school, it's very not really thought out. I wanted to go into the teaching and just influence and teach more students. I wanted to go into specifically band, and I really love the passion that I have for it. I just want to show them how you can play and great things you've done, and especially going for a concert master. You can't just do it by thinking you've got it. You just got to work for it. And I've been working for the past 3 years since fifth grade, and I haven't stopped yet. And I still have that passion going for it. And my community, I just want to be able to help my community, and to show that we can make our tribe known. And we can't just do that by little bits of people. I want to be able to have people work together and show that we are just not just a tribe, but we're a tribe that can show we can do better than what we're expected to. And I thank you for this time, for being with you all. And I thank Mr. Sean Martin for nominating me as the student of the month for you all. And I thank you all. And I appreciate what you have all done, and especially your standards teaching. And it's great. I thank you all. Thank you.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Up next, we have another amazing student from across the state. Isaiah Clay is with us today. He's a 12th grade student at McClintock High School, Maricopa County, was nominated by teacher Nicole Davis, is enrolled in all honors courses, and recently finished a number of AP exams, is graduating from high school with an associate's degree. is a member of the Aquarium Club, maintaining environmental spaces for various species of fish, leads in the Photography Club, mentors younger students in film and TV program, has earned industry-level certifications in Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and Premiere, is an exceptional character, is humble, patient, and solutions-oriented. Isaiah, come on up.
All right, cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Isaiah Clay, and I was also selected for Student of the Month a little bit ago. First off, I just want to thank all of you guys here for the opportunity to come out and speak today. Of course, I wouldn't be here without all my amazing teachers and peers. I want to personally shout out Miss Davis. She's my yearbook teacher, and she nominated me for this position. And she's been one of my biggest supporters for years. It's just an honor to have her as a teacher. I'm currently finishing my senior year at McClintock High School in my final year at Peggy Payne Academy, which is just one of the many opportunities that McClintock provides for all of its students. And that's really what I love so much about my school, is that it provides all these awesome opportunities like extracurriculars, fine arts programs, CTE courses, certifications, advanced classes, all this stuff to prepare students for whatever comes after high school. And I also feel really lucky to have such wonderful teachers. I'm sure all of you guys here know that a good teacher is worth their weight in gold, and McClintock really has no shortage of them. My teachers and classmates have made learning difficult material not only manageable, but genuinely enjoyable. It's just been a pleasure. Over the past 4 years, I've earned more than 85 college credit hours with dual enrollment courses, excuse me, with Rio Salado Community College and AP tests, assuming my tests went well the other day. I think they were pretty good. I've also become an Adobe certified professional in 4 different Adobe applications, like you said earlier, and that's given me a few other certifications from Adobe. I've also got the CTE certifications for video production and graphic design. And by graduation, I'll be graduating with, I think, 3 associate's degrees from Rio Salado and my high school diploma. But I didn't really accomplish all of this just by studying constantly. One of the biggest things that helped me grow as a student was learning time management. That was really key in all this. And also learning not to be afraid to ask for help. Earlier in school, I was a lot quieter and kept mostly to myself. I was pretty reserved. But learning how to talk to teachers, work with classmates, and reach out when I needed help has really made me grow, not just academically, but personally too. After graduation, I'm going to be attending Arizona State University. I'm going to be majoring in applied mathematics and finance, a dual major. And I also plan to pursue photography as a hobby and a creative outlet following high school still. I was awarded the New American University Scholarship along with a Pell Grant, which is going to fully cover my tuition, which is awesome. And yeah, thank you all again for your time and allowing me the chance to speak today. I'm really grateful for all the opportunities like fine arts, CTE programs, just all these things that you guys work as the Board of Education to provide to the state. It's just really wonderful. And I think these programs can genuinely change students' lives just by giving them a place to discover what they love and what they're capable of. I know they made a huge difference for me, and I hope these opportunities are available for future students too. So thank you guys.
And as much as I wish I could say meeting adjourned after on such a high note, President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, that concludes my executive director's report.
Well, Wiley and Isaiah, incredible students. Thank you so much for being with us today. We'll now move to item 2, which is the call to public. This is a time for the public to comment on items listed in the consent agenda or the general session. Members of the public may also address topics not on today's agenda. Please note that Arizona law prohibits board members from discussing or taking legal action on matters raised during the call to the public that are not currently on the meeting agenda. Each speaker has 2 minutes to address the board during our 1-hour public comment period. Furthermore, speakers are not allowed to cede their time to another speaker. And of course, personal attacks are not appropriate. And with that, Deputy Director DePlanty, have we received any requests to speak?
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Yes, we have. First up will be Michael Pierce, followed by Simone Bell, followed by Beth Hatcher. Michael? Michael doesn't appear to be here. Simone? You can go ahead and unmute, Simone.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Good morning, President and members of the Arizona Board of Education. I'm here today on behalf of ESA parents who are doing everything we are supposed to do, following the rules exactly as they are written, yet still having reimbursements falsely declined because of inconsistent decision-making and poorly trained staff. According to ESA's own policies, tutoring expenses are allowed to be prepaid for up to 1 month. Parents know this because we take the time to carefully read the rules, gather documentation, build curriculum, and submit pages of proof by our expenses. Many of us can always make sure every requirement is met before we even submit a reimbursement. Yet, despite all of that effort, reimbursements are still being denied for reasons that directly contradict ESA's own written guidance. In my own case, my reimbursement was declined even so I attached the official ESA letter clearly stating that tutoring reimbursements are permitted for prepay up to 1 month. The proof was literally included in the submission, and yet it was still denied. At some point, parents have to ask ourselves, are we expected to hold employees' hands and walk them through their own rules just to make sure things are processed correctly and efficiently? Parents should not have to fight through confusion, inconsistency, and unnecessary denials after doing everything right. ESA families rely on this program to educate their children, and we deserve a system that applies the rules fairly, consistently, and competently. We are asking the board to address the lack of staff training and accountability so ESA parents can stop wasting valuable time correcting mistakes and educate our children. And these are mistakes that should never happen in the first place. Thank you for your time.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Next up is Beth Hatcher, followed by Laura Ilardo, followed by Kathleen Leonard. Beth?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. My name is Beth Hatcher, retired educator and a representative from the Council for Native American Ministry within the Episcopal Diocese of Arizona. The introduction in the Arizona History and Social Science Standards reads, quote, "An important aspect of our republic is that an educated and engaged citizenry is vital for the system to work. In a government where the final authority and sovereignty rests with the people, our local, state, and federal governments will only be as responsive as citizens demand them to be." And it goes on, unquote. An excerpt from the core discipline descriptors under history states, quote, "It is vital for students to study both United States and world history so they can analyze a human experience through time, recognize the relationships of events and people, and interpret significant patterns, themes, ideas, and turning points in American and world history. Students apply the lessons of history to their lives as citizens of the United States and members of the world community," unquote. As a citizen and former educator, I believe these statements, which is why I'm once again asking that the board place the following items on an upcoming agenda. 1, explicitly name the doctrine of discovery. 2, name Native American genocide rather than calling it other. 3, insert the word forced as it relates to migration. And 4, add Indigenous Peoples Day where holidays are named. Most people have not been taught about the doctrine of discovery, the foundation of land laws in this country, the basis of past and current treatment of Indigenous people. Educators will not teach subjects they're unaware of. In order to have a fully informed citizenry who are taught social studies factually, the doctrine of discovery must be included in our standards. Is a doctrine deemed inconsequential or unimportant, therefore excluded in our standards? Are we afraid to teach our students the truth behind European exploration, which touched most continents? Please add these requests to an upcoming agenda. Thank you.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Next up is Laura Ilardo, followed by Kathleen Leonard, followed by Alexandra Leonard. Laura? Seems that Laura is not here. How about Kathleen Leonard?
Good morning. Superintendent Horn, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to emphasize the critical importance of continuing strong, intentional funding for school social workers through the school safety program. School safety is not achieved by a single strategy. It requires a comprehensive approach, one that includes prevention, early intervention, crisis response, and strong collaboration with families, educators, and community partners. School social workers are uniquely trained to do exactly this. We are often the first to identify emerging concerns, connect students to needed services, and support families before challenges escalate into safety risks. This year, 520 Arizona schools chose to prioritize a school social worker or school counselor as their first choice in their grant applications. That number speaks loudly. Schools are telling you what they need to keep students safe, supported, and ready to learn. And the need is only growing. Families across Arizona are struggling to make ends meet as economic pressures rise and federal supports shrink. When families face instabilities, schools feel it. And school social workers are the ones who help bridge the gap, stabilize, and prevent crises that directly impact school safety. We are asking the board to recognize that school social workers are a core component of school safety. Continued consistent funding is essential to maintaining safe learning environments and supporting the well-being of Arizona students. Thank you for your attention and for your commitment to the safety of our schools.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Next up is Alexandra Leonard, followed by Samuel Rogers, followed by Mike Winters. Alexandra?
Good morning, President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. My name is Alex Leonard, and I serve as Canon for Justice for the Episcopal Diocese of Arizona, and am a member of our Council for Native American Ministry. I am here today to ask that the Arizona History and Social Science standards be modified to include the following: that the doctrine of discovery, current legal legislation, be explicitly named as is the Constitution, that the phrase Native American genocide also be included, a genocide that took place on our soil, that Indigenous Peoples Day be named alongside other federal holidays such as Columbus Day and Thanksgiving, and for the phrase forced migration to be included when describing Native American migration across these lands. May 5th, which was 2 short weeks ago, is recognized as the National Day of Awareness for Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women and Relatives. It's a day when we shine light on the unsettling rates of violence against Indigenous women, girls, and relatives, including the fact that in many places in the U.S., Indigenous women and girls are heartbreakingly murdered at 10 times the national average. The FBI reported 10,248 missing Indigenous persons reports in 2024, and most women reported missing were actually girls under the age of 18. I stood in solidarity 2 weeks ago outside the Phoenix Indian Center as I listened to Indigenous high school students talk about those missing and their families and how they live in fear of becoming part of these disturbing statistics. Part of the problem is the fact that there is a lack of data, a lack of resources to investigate these cases, and a lack of awareness and respect for the original stewards of this land. We are complicit in the exact same invisibility that the data on missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and relatives documents. So when our standards leave out the doctrine of discovery, forced migration, the word genocide, and our own federal holidays, we teach the same invisibility that let these girls go uncounted if they disappear. These 4 additions are not symbolic. Teaching the cause is the first thing we can actually do about the effect. I'm asking this board to help be part of the solution. Thank you for your time.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Next up is Samuel Rogers, followed by Mike Winters. Samuel?
Hello, I wanted to speak today briefly about school bus transportation and specifically how open enrollment leads to perverse incentives to underserved in-district families. I live in the Catalina Foothills School District in Tucson. It's a hilly neighborhood with many old, narrow, and winding roads. My own neighborhood of over 300 homes is 60 years old, and while delivery trucks and emergency vehicles navigate these roads easily, full-size school buses cannot. Consequently, some children, including my kindergartner, must walk up to and over a mile of dangerous roads just to reach the nearest bus stop. Bizarrely, the district claims that they satisfy their mandate to provide transportation to families living over a mile from school by placing the bus stop over a mile from our house. Irony, anyone? The proposed solution is for the HOA to pay astronomical engineering and construction costs to widen the roads. The thing is, Arizona state law explicitly allows and mandates funding flexibility for smaller buses to address these types of infrastructure challenges, such as ARS 15922, 925, and SB 1630. Unfortunately, open enrollment has poisoned the incentive for this. Rather than spend a little bit more money on small buses to adequately serve in-district families, districts like mine spend money to send buses many miles outside the district to pick up students who open enroll. I can't entirely blame them as we are all creatures of the incentives that made us. The district is incentivized to do this because they literally make money by scalping students from other districts, and they would lose money by using smaller buses to adequately navigate the roads in the Catalina foothills. Our neighborhood and our school needs better structural incentives to ensure that the local tax dollars stay and serve local children. Thank you.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Next up is Mike Winters. Mike?
Good morning, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to say ditto to everything she said. She took a lot of my speech. My name is Mike Winters. I'm the superintendent of the Saddle Mountain Unified School District in Western Buckeye and Tonopah. We're about 550 square miles and serve about 3,300 students. I know many of my colleagues are in the same position. We learned last week that thousands and thousands of our students had their counselors stripped from them with the school safety grant. I would like to talk a little bit about the process. At the beginning of the process, it was a very robust application to which my district was able to fulfill. Several weeks after that completion, we received an email saying, you didn't need to do that anymore, wasting hours and hours of time. We received no communication about our award. The ADE staff was very helpful and was very clear to us that encouraged us that if we did not put SSOs or SROs as our #1 priority, we ran great risk of receiving nothing. So with that, we did put SSOs and SROs as our first and primary funding, and we received 5 SSOs for next year. This past year, we had 5 counselors and 2 SSOs, which is exactly what we need. We have another situation where, despite years of input from the field, those who either don't work or who have never worked in schools are making decisions for us based upon what we know we need best. I recommend a complete review of the process. We should not be finding out about these this way. Not to mention, I now have to tell 5 people they don't have a job for next year, and that is happening across the state, basically the week before school is out. I've also learned that the updated emergency operation plans from AD are going to include a robust mental health component, despite the mental health components of our schools being ripped out from us last week. So if there's any ability for us to have input, I would like to have 5 counselors and 2 SSOs again next year. Thank you.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, that concludes this call to the public.
Okay. Great. We will now move to item 3, the consent agenda. Is there an item or items from the consent agenda that a board member would like to pull and discuss? Dr. Hagerman.
Can we pull 3E?
Yes. What I'd like to do is, yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
yes.
Can I
Oh,
also pull
yes.
3B?
B as in boy,
D as in dog.
D as in dog. Yes. Okay. With that, I'd like to make a motion for items 3A through 3C to approve those 3 items. Do I have a,
So moved.
Dr. Hager makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Dr. Clay seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move to discussion. So item 3D as in David. Member Kravickas.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. As I continue to pull this off every month, I think this is probably the last round of requests for this year. So I just want to say again that I'll be encouraging board members to really support ADE staff in this next year's round of approvals to make sure that these applications are using evidence-based curriculums, or using evidence-based strategies, that we're really digging into what they're proposing as solutions and meeting all the requirements of statute. I think that the legislature asked the state board to review these for a reason, and it's about 50 million a year and test scores are going down. So I feel like this next round, we really need to be looking even more closely. So I just wanted to say that as we pass this last one for this year.
Thank you, Member Kravickas. I really support what your remarks, and looking forward and grateful to ADE for making it clear what our school districts, what curriculum they are using, and hopefully the steps that they're taking to adopt curriculum that utilizes science of reading. Any other comments or questions? Okay, with that one, I think we'll take a vote on item 3D as in David. Do I have a motion to approve item 3D?
So moved.
I'll second then.
Okay, great. Member Kravickas makes the motion. Dr. Hagerman seconds. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3E, Dr. Hagerman.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can just get a little bit of process overview. There's been a lot of questions about schools that have lost grants that they were hoping for and new schools added, and just how that process worked. Thank you.
With President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, with us today is Mike Kurtenbach from the Arizona Department of Education, he oversees the school safety team, and he's here to answer questions. Mike?
Thank you, Executive Director Ross. President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members. I have a slide deck. I don't know if you had the opportunity to review the slide deck. It has a lot of the information that's in there, but I'll talk an overview about the process. So this is a grant that has grown tremendously in the last 8 years. So in 2018, and that year matters, it was a $12 million grant that funded solely police officers and juvenile probation officers. So SROs and JPOs. In 2019, ARS 15154, which governs the program, was changed by the legislature to then add counselors and social workers. The first round of funding that was available after that change was 2020. At that time, it was a $32 million program. FY23, the legislature made another change. And this bears a little explanation, and also it'll tie into why there were 2 lists that came out and why the second list is the prevailing correct list. So in FY23, the legislature dedicated an additional $50 million to the program. And there was a budget note that was included. That budget note still exists today in the FY27 JLBC baseline book. And these are actual numbers. So on page 175 of that book, as you go down, there's the funding for the Arizona Department of Education. There's 2 footnotes, footnote 22 and footnote 23. You go to page 178, you read footnote 23, which is germane to this conversation. And that led to the interpretation, misunderstanding, and the correct application we are at today. That said, that $50 million must be dedicated to police officers, to SROs. It didn't call out SSOs because that didn't exist in statute at the time, but police officers. By extension, the initial interpretation was, and then it says, the language that's in there says that any monies not dedicated toward officers could then be used for counselors and social workers. So sitting down with Superintendent Horn, we believe, and we're very confident the proper application of that note is just to the $50 million, not the entire $82 million appropriation. That's why the numbers changed. If you say literally that all of the monies must be dedicated toward sworn personnel, that's how we got to the initial numbers of 458 officers, a combination of SRO and SSO, and only 64 counselors and social workers. That was the first list. I accept responsibility for that list going out. What I think is important is that we identified that within 24 hours, we corrected it, working with Executive Director Ross to get that posted. That leads us to where we are at today. So with the understanding that we must follow the legislature, which says that 50 million goes toward police officers, that's what the numbers now reflect. The numbers reflect that 323 police officer positions will be funded, down 135 from the original number. And we went from 64 counselor social worker positions up to the 334 that's listed there today. And it's based on the scoring criteria that I presented to you in January. It's in the packet. There's a rubric that's for SROs and SSOs, and there's a separate rubric for counselors and social workers. It's a very long spreadsheet, as you can imagine, of information that was provided. Working with Dr. Jenny Walker from my team, that's her group that oversees that. They're going to take out any personal identifying information that's on that, and we will post those scores. We have nothing to hide in terms of the process, where schools themselves can look at where they are relative to that rubric. I agree, as we heard here today from people that testified during public comment, every one of these positions is critically important. You know that I served as a police officer for 33 years, and I'm here to tell you that I could not have done my job without the support of counselors and social workers in the field. Most of my career was operational. I believe in that holistic approach to wellness. I believe in preventing the bad thing from happening by having police officers work with our counselors and social workers who are best suited to do that. Here's our challenge. It's an $82 million appropriation. This board approved in January, 4% of that appropriation goes toward administrative costs. That's my team to manage the grant. And it isn't just managing the grant, it's the training that goes along with the grant that is legislatively mandated as well. And there have been significant changes, as is indicated in the packet, over the last several years. And then programs that support our counselors and social workers, such as advancing wellness and resiliency through education, our suicidology, everything that we do working cooperatively with them. It's not ADE being a silo. What I have said repeatedly, I'm on the record multiple times saying we want our schools to apply for those positions that meet their needs, and we will do everything in our power to support them. The challenge is those numbers. So at $82 million, I believe it's 82 million and 36, back out the 3.3%, that gets you to 78.7 million that's available to be awarded. We received over $181 million in requests for positions. So that's why the rubric was strictly applied. That's why the positions are listed before you today for approval. If I may say, just two things that could potentially help this, and that's two bills. House Bill 2142 would create the Arizona School Safety Center. Not only would that center directly support our educators, our administrators, our counselors, and our social workers, but what that does is it shifts that 4% from the initial appropriation, those admin costs, $3.3 million, and it moves that to carry forward dollars. That would free up $3.3 million that could be used for additional positions. I think we'd all agree that's very significant. That's a commitment that Superintendent Horn has made. It's a reverting fund. We feel confident that we can support that through carry forward dollars. I will tell you that our CFO doesn't love that because that isn't guaranteed, but we have enough data, and you've heard me throw out a lot of numbers. Clearly, I'm a data guy in doing the analysis. I'm comfortable we can do that, and I believe there's a greater benefit to getting those 3.3 million into the hands of our schools. The second thing, there's a separate bill, House Bill 2376, that would appropriate $40 million specifically to the school safety program. That $40 million would go a long way. There's a slide in there that talks about fiscal year 25, that the program grew. And I want to explain why in the situation that we're in. That Superintendent Horn, because it's a reverting fund, released almost $48 million to schools in a one-time 18-month, the term that's used, and my team knows I hate it, mini grant. I don't think $48 million is mini. That was the term that was colloquially used. Came before you, received approval to release those funds. So what did that do? That grew the fund, that grew the program for that $82 million base appropriation to $128.3 million. It grew it then, remember, over 18 months to support 1,086 positions in 1,155 schools. Tremendous opportunity to do that. There still were 361 counselor and social worker requests that went unfunded. So I knew that when this round of funding became available, that this statutorily mandated cycle, that we would get more requests than we received money for, hence putting together a request to the governor to grow the program to $180 million. You could say, Mike, you were crazy to submit that, but we recognized there was the need, as borne out by the numbers, $181 million in applications. The other thing that the superintendent has directed me to do, working with our CFO, to see if there are additional carry forward dollars that we can allocate. So there's a list that's before you today. As you know, we maintain all those not funded behind that list. And should more monies come available, either through carry forward dollars or through the legislation that I already referenced, those are scored. And then we can release those monies. Is that ideal? No, because as the superintendent said to you from Saddle Mountain, those are positions. That isn't lost on me. Those are 95 currently filled counselor and social worker positions supported directly by the school safety program, for which there is no funding going forward as of today. I'm a very hopeful person. I believe that the legislature will do the right thing. At the very least, 2142 allows us to move $3.3 million. Those aren't new monies. I understand there's a significant battle over new monies. I'm not asking for new money there. That's already legislatively appropriated dollars that we believe would better suit the schools, in addition to 2376. So I just wanted to get all that information out there so you have that on the record, and I welcome the opportunity to answer any questions.
Superintendent Horn.
Yes, great presentation, Mike. I think to let people who are frustrated in not getting their request filled and let them know that we're very much on their side, working hard and advocating hard. I think you should describe what we're doing at the legislature to try to get them to give an appropriation so we don't lose those positions.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members, yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, these aren't just words. I spent a tremendous amount of time at the legislature advocating, lobbying for this program. I feel passionately about this program. One of my directors, Dr. Kathy Johnson, was a juvenile probation officer in the 90s under this program, which was born in 1994. She got her master's, she got her doctorate. I have seen the impact. I saw the impact as a police officer. I talk about those positions working cooperatively and collaboratively together because I want to help our students. So I am over there all the time and advocating on behalf of the program. I'm on the record testifying in multiple committees on the program, from House, Senate, wherever the case may be, because we see the value, which is why I brought up specific legislation here today. So you understand those are bills that ADE is advocating for, and one bill that doesn't cost the taxpayers anything more than the base appropriation we already have, because we want to fill those positions. Back in 2023, Superintendent Horn created the School Safety Task Force. Within that, worked with our Counselors Association, our social workers, our school psychs who aren't directly funded by the program, but give me a greater understanding of the needs that are in the school. Because whereas it's true, I have an MED, but I never taught in the classroom. I taught police officers, but I've immersed myself throughout this state. Dr. Clay knows this. I was just down in Cochise County. I spent a lot of time up on the Navajo Nation. It was wonderful to hear that young man from Chinle here today, understanding the diverse needs. So these aren't just words. This is something that I continue to advocate for, along with our in-house government affairs staff, to where hopefully our legislators, proponents of our legislators, will put forward legislation that the governor sees fit to sign.
Dr. Hagerman.
I just have a question about like timelines. So what are the constraints around the current timelines so that we're voting today? Is there anything we could do to advocate that it would better align with the hiring timelines of schools in the future? Because I think that's a reasonable complaint that we're trying to make staffing decisions back in March and now finding out funding decisions in June.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, Dr. Hagerman. So I've heard this repeatedly. So why are we here today? Because by statute, the grant must stay open until April 15th in those funding years. So it's a 3-year cycle. Year one is competitive. The next 2 years are continuation. So that April 15th deadline, to your point, Dr. Hagerman, already you're behind the curve. So then what my team does is once all those applications are in, work very hard to score them, this being the first meeting that we could come to with those scores. That's the situation we're in. And as I've talked to, was just recently talking to a chief in Navajo County who's said to me, and I'm very, very understanding of this, these budgets are done. If we don't get these positions, then we don't know what we're going to do. We cannot fill them. So it's a statutory requirement that the grant stays open until April 15th. That's why we're here today.
So in general, if we advocate or try to push it for a statutorial change that kind of matches timeline wise, and then there might be constraints at legislatively, but that's the issue right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments, Dr. Clay?
Good morning, President Haley and fellow members of the board. Mike, thank you very much for your presentation. We definitely appreciate your hard work. Sometime, as you know, I have to ask some hard questions. And this is a clarifying question that's come to my attention. When you had, or your staff had briefed about the processes, and that's what I'm just concerned about, the processes. You said that you would prioritize current grantees to maintain positions already working. And it's come to my attention that there were 34 new counselor social positions. They were awarded statewide, while there were some schools that were going by the statement that you were going to prioritize current grantees to maintain positions already working. And you know, when it came to me, I said, okay, how many were new that had to do with social worker counselors? I was concerned. How many were new? Because there shouldn't be new until you give all the grants to those who had already grantees the last year. So the concern now is we have 34 new counselor workers positions, but there are some schools that didn't, that were approved last year, but were not approved this year. So that is my question. Could you please clarify how that could have happened or why it happened?
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, Dr. Clay. So I'll go back to the rubric. But before I get into the numbers in the rubric, I want to throw out another number. If we just look at the positions that are currently funded and filled, because that's an important distinction, it's just under $110 million. So to Dr. Clay's point, as you're doing the math with the 78 million that I can allocate, 78.7 in the 110, I already have a delta of over $31 million. So then there's the rubric. And so under the rubric, currently funded positions, if you follow everything that you are supposed to do, you get points. There's points for training. There's points for an emergency operations plan. Those points are already baked in there. So to answer Dr. Clay, your question, then a new grantee would have to have more points based on the rubric. And then it also comes down to when the timing of the application. And let me explain that. So these are whole numbers. The rubric is 0 to 10. So there's a lot of 4s. And then how do you differentiate between the 4s or the 5s in terms of the funding? Then the only way to differentiate is the date of the submittal. So that's how you get into a situation where current grantees, Dr. Clay, already have the opportunity to earn more points by being on the program by the very way the rubric is developed. But just because they are on the program, and I'm no way maligning anybody, I have to look at the scores. And if there are individual ones you want me to look at, Dr. Clay, I certainly will. You know, I'm very open to see why. But it just comes down to points and the way those points are allocated.
Okay, so you're saying that the new ones that came in that were awarded over the older ones, you're saying that their points were higher than the ones that were awarded last year.
So Dr. Clay, what I'm saying is they either higher or they were equal to, and then it comes down to the date of application, because I don't believe that I've been given any authority, and if I'm interpreting this wrong, tell me, to give additional preference to currently funded sites. I don't think that I have that authority. I think it comes down to the rubric that was approved by the state board. And then the only tiebreaker, for lack of a better term, within that rubric is the date of the submission of the application.
Thank you. I understand that, but one last comment. I'm looking at, and this, the reason why I'm asking these questions, because these questions are asked of me, and I want to be able to give an answer to the field. Looking at your slide that says FY27 award process, it says, the second bullet says, prioritize current grantees to maintain positions already working. Maybe that shouldn't have been on the presentation slide because it's causing some confusion within the field. So I definitely understand what you're saying. You're saying, I think you're saying that the ones who did receive the grant, they were either equal to or higher points. All right. But the way this is written, you know, on the slide, it makes it gives the appearance that those who have already received will most likely get it. And it again, it says prioritize, it says FY27 award process, prioritize current grantees to maintain positions already working. But I do understand what you're saying, but that bullet, it's a little bit confusing.
And President Haley, Superintendent Horn, Dr. Clay, I accept that. That wording is not ideal. It was our intent, and it was my intent. My hope was anybody who was funded right now maintained that. Ultimately, I wasn't able to reach that aspirational goal because of the scoring. But you are correct, the way that's worded. I accept that. I apologize.
And you know what? Thank you so much just for clarifying that. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do appreciate it. It was probably a very hard thing, especially when, you know, you're not looking at the schools, you're just going by points. I understand that. Thank you for clarifying and explaining. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Member Katniss.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. I have a question. In your report, it talks about waitlisted positions. Can you explain what those positions are and what could potentially happen for those?
Yes, President Haley, Superintendent Horn, Member Katniss. So I briefly touched upon it before, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to clarify it even more. So what's before you today are those that are recommended for funding, and there's highlights in there making distinctions between positions. Behind all of those, we have scored and we have a wait list based on how much money becomes available. So if you actually are looking at my numbers, you'll see the appropriation. We're a little bit above the appropriation by a few thousand. I'm confident in this reverting fund. It was more important to go a little bit above. I can absorb that to fund a full position. So behind the positions that are before you today for approval are hundreds of additional positions, nearly 1,000 actually, that are scored based on where they landed. Now, I think I may be off by a number or two, but I want to say there are perhaps seven schools that did not submit an emergency operations plan at all. I can't consider those for funding. So minus those, everyone else is going to be sitting on a wait list based on their score when their application was submitted as that tiebreaker when there's no other opportunity. So if $3.3 million became available, say 2142 was signed into law, then we can go down based on the scores, and that's all positions, counselor, social worker, SRO, SSO, JPO, if that falls in there, depending on where they were ranked, to be funded to that amount. If there was 10 million, I go down 10 million, whatever the case may be. Hopefully that makes sense.
Any other questions? I just had perhaps maybe a more rhetorical comment is that we're looking for individual appropriations to fund critical roles in our public schools. And we believe that our local school districts at the end of the day should be able to have the authority to hire or let go those to provide essential services. So is a bigger question about the basic state aid formula that funds our schools so that we don't run into situations like this, and to also equip and empower our local school districts to make sure that they have the school safety resources, personnel, counselors that can equip our schools and make sure that they are safe, our students are safe. So perhaps it's more of a rhetorical question, but this is really difficult. It's like picking your children, who's your favorite, and we don't want to do that. So
President Haley, if I may, I won't direct the mechanism or speak to the mechanism directly, but $181 million in requests, I think it speaks for itself. It shows that our schools are asking for these positions. And it was said earlier, yes, it's very hard. I take no joy in saying no to anybody not being able to fill all of these. I would love to fill all of them. I unfortunately have to operate within the constraints of ARS 15154. And I know, again, it's rhetorical, you're nodding. I can only allocate what I have as of today.
any other, Member Kervikas?
Thank you, Madam President. I also received a call from a school, and thank you, Mike, for addressing all the questions. All of the answers are a little hard to swallow. I'm sure you've already thought of this because I know you think about this program around the clock, but is there a need to change the deadline? Because I mean, we've got the overall problem of not enough money for all the applications. Then we can, you could discuss the rubric and how all that lays out. But at the end of the day, there's not enough money to fund it. That's one problem. But the problem that I did wrestle with is the finding out in May, the issue that Dr. Hagerman already raised. Is there a need to change the application deadline so they at least have an opportunity to make their internal budget decisions with adequate time?
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, Member Kervikas, I will tell you from my perspective and my teams, yeah, we think there's tremendous value in working with the legislature to hopefully get their approval to change this deadline. That would align more closely with budgets that are being done at the school level. There's more certainty going forward to where folks are not being notified in May that positions are or are not funded. And that's whether we say it's a good thing or a bad thing, because this grant operates in 3-year cycles, we have time. That doesn't mean sit on the sidelines. Don't hear me say that, Member Kervikas. You know me better than that. But we have an opportunity then to lobby the legislature to get that changed.
Member Katniss. Oh, sorry. Member Kervikas, do you have any other comments?
I just said thank you, Mike, for being here today.
Member Kervikas. Or Member Katniss.
We're not even sitting together and we still get confused. So thank you for all this information. I think I did just a little bit of research on the K-12 school shooting database, and I think part of the reason why there's so many more applications too is that we're living in a different world since 2018. In 2018, we had 119 incidents with an active shooter in our nation. And in 2023, that went up to 352. And I think it's a hard question to ask schools and school districts to be able to choose, between a school counselor, an SRO, a social worker, because all of these different positions are so needed in today's world to keep our kids safe, and then to also provide the necessary resources and opportunities to allow students to grow in the best possible ways. And so I am thankful that you provided a lot of clarity on this, but I also want to allow our friends at the legislature to also really look at this, because this is really important for our kids and safety. We have incidents across the state this year where a lot of these things could be prevented with counselors and with SROs and social workers. And as someone that is in the classroom and sees, how important counselors are, it shouldn't be this or that. It should be, how can we make sure that we have as many positions as possible to serve children?
Dr. Hagerman. Okay. All right.
President Haley, Superintendent, members of the board, just for the record, I wanted to note that Dr. Cruz Rivera did join us at 9:53. He's with us.
Great. Thank you. Is there, Dr. Cruz Rivera, do you have a question, or were you saying hello? You may need to unmute yourself.
I was just saying hello.
Okay.
Welcome.
Well, welcome. Thank you. Well, Mike, thank you for your presentation and answering our many questions and comments. Do we want to go ahead and move on to item 3E? And if so, do we have a motion to approve the release of funds to the awarded LEAs for the FY 2027 School Safety Program Grant?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Dr. Clay seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. All right. Thank you all for the robust conversation. I appreciate that. I think we'll continue to move on. We'll move on to the general session. We'll start with item 4A. This is a presentation and discussion with Arizona Education Foundation's Teacher of the Year. We look forward to hearing from you.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. With us today are representatives from Arizona Educational Foundation and Tiffany Joseph, who's the Arizona Teacher of the Year. We are very excited to hear from AEF and from Tiffany about the program and about the roles and responsibilities of Teacher of the Year, and to get to recognize her great work.
Button. President Haley, Superintendent Horn, Arizona Board, thank you. My name is Mark Paulson. I proudly serve as the Director of Education at the Arizona Educational Foundation, or AEF. Our work is really centered around Arizona public schools, and we focus to recognize excellence, supporting educators, supporting principals, school leaders, and helping elevate this great work. And that's happening in the classroom and schools across the state. There we go. Our mission is to celebrate excellence, making sure that there's opportunities within our PK through 12 Arizona public school systems. And our vision is extremely simple. It's making sure that Arizona public schools get the shine that they deserve. And we do this through a lot of our different programming that we have throughout the state. Some of our programs are designed to recognize excellence, like our A+ Schools of Excellence that you may have heard of. This program celebrates and demonstrates strong leadership, student success, effective practices, and a commitment to continue improvement. The Arizona Teacher of the Year elevates outstanding educators from across the state, gives them a platform to celebrate excellence with their students, as well as to advocate for public education. We also support programming through our Principals Leadership Academy of Arizona, which helps Arizona schools leaders grow their practice, strengthen their school systems, and continuous public professional learning. Other programs connects students and educators from a broader opportunities like the Arizona Spelling Bee that gives that academic platform for students to shine. We have programming for legislators that we take them to different public schools to understand what's happening for our policymakers at school sites. We have programming around STEM education and workforce development as well, having a broader understanding around workforce development skills that are so necessary, post-secondary success, future careers, et cetera. So our programming might look a little bit disjointed. One of the connecting threads throughout all of our programming is really making sure that public schools have opportunities to shine and making sure that there are ample opportunities for our public schools to demonstrate excellence. One of our signature programs that we're going to be talking about today is our Arizona Teacher of the Year program. This program does a lot more than just naming one Arizona Teacher of the Year, but it really recognizes 15 amazing educators from across the state. On August 7th, that's coming up, we are going to be awarding 15 amazing educators. 5 are going to be our honorable mentions, 5 will be our semifinalists, 4 will be our ambassadors of excellence, and then our Arizona Teacher of the Year. And by the end of that event, we will have that Arizona Teacher of the Year will be named, and they will start to represent Arizona for the National Teacher of the Year and be connected with CCSSO and their amazing programming. This is one of the cleanest and clearest ways that AEF helps elevate the profession. So what I'd like to do for a moment here is just recognize our 2026 Arizona Teacher of the Year, Tiffany Joseph. She is from the Copperview Elementary in the Sahuarita Unified School District.
Good morning to the board. Thank you so much for having me today. I am honored to be here to represent not only my district, but the state of Arizona as being recognized as 2026 Arizona Teacher of the Year. Just to talk a little bit about my journey, which brings me here today. I am a general education teacher turned special education teacher. I began my journey at the University of Arizona. I received my bachelor's in elementary education, but I always had something in me that knew that special education was somewhere inside me. So I decided to go forward and get my master's in special education. And so I taught second grade for a few years, and then there was an opening, and I went ahead and took it. And once I started teaching special education, I truly never really looked back. Special education is just the heart of who I am, and I have seen so many wonderful things happen in public education, seeing special education and general education come together. That's honestly what drives me. Part of my platform and what AEF is giving me is an opportunity to talk about how special education can run in public schools and all the beautiful things that are happening when we see special education and general education come together. The Teacher of the Year process was honestly an incredible process, and I have met so many special educators alongside me in this process. Being named Arizona Teacher of the Year for 2026, I have been given a lot of opportunities, and part of that opportunity is I have a platform to speak to Arizona across the state. As you can see in these pictures, I've had some wonderful opportunities already. I am able to speak with my own district in Sahuarita, but I am also able to speak with the school boards across the state. And I am given a lot of fun and wonderful opportunities. But what the biggest thing is that I am able to really shed a voice. And honestly, my voice wouldn't be elevated the way it is if it wasn't for AEF. And so, as Mark mentioned, I am not only a representative for Arizona, but I'm connecting with the nation. There's a national cohort for all the state teachers of the year. And so, as you can see in one of my pictures, I'm able to meet with them. So I've been able to meet with them at Google. That's the bottom picture there in Santa Clara. And I'll have a couple more opportunities to meet them as well in Washington, D.C. and in Alabama for Space Camp. So there's these tremendous opportunities that I would have never been afforded if it wasn't for AEF and what they're doing for us. Part also of not only the fun, but it's also, taking my opportunity to talk to people across Arizona. And one of the groups that I get to talk to are with aspiring teachers. So it's no surprise, right, that we are in need of public school teachers. And so I have the opportunity to talk to new and aspiring teachers about the profession, what comes with the job, and really speak to those who have the heart and who want to come and might be even a little bit scared to come into the program. Another opportunity I have is to be able to talk to the school boards across Arizona about special education and to make sure policies and informed decisions are being made for special education, because it is a very unique population and we are in need of services. And so I do get that opportunity as well. I have permission to share with you my wonderful students, Noah and Jakey. They are part of my program. So in Sahuarita, my program is a very special program. It's an inclusion program, and it's called Extended Resource. So my job is to take students with varying needs who have the highest support needs and who need adult support to access school, and to make sure that not only do they have a place in my classroom, but they have access to the general education classrooms as well. And so I service students in K-5. And so these students are two of the students I've had the longest. I've had them since kinder, and they are both in 4th grade now. And so I've had the pleasure of working with them and helping their families to make sure their students have access to public education just like every other student. Just because they are in special education doesn't mean they have any less access than those in general education as well. I build relationships with my students, and I also build relationships with the families. As I mentioned, I can have these students from K through 5, kinder through 5th grade. And so we really build relationships together. And it's amazing because as Arizona Teacher of the Year for 2026, I get to talk about that. I get to talk about how it looks for special education and general education to connect, and how amazing things are happening in public schools. A lot of people have those questions, and there's amazing things that are happening. I get the opportunity to make sure my students have the support systems that they need, and to make sure they build the skills so that when they leave me and go to middle school, they have what they need. So as I share my voice locally, across Arizona, and at the national level, I want to make sure that my voice is being heard and that I can ensure special education services, they're happening in the public schools, and I can shed a light on how that looks. I want to spread the message that general education and special education can collaborate to make, as I mentioned, beautiful things happen in school. And so locally, I'm doing things with my district. I am giving keynotes, and I'm beginning to lead new initiatives within my district and at the higher level in Arizona as well. I've been able to speak at colleges and universities. I've been able to speak with the school boards. I've been able to collaborate with principals, and even going to begin creating a new curriculum for Down syndrome students and people with Down syndrome, and being able to give them access to ways to read. Those with Down syndrome, they do struggle with that. So that's an initiative that's being provided to me through AEF as well. And as I mentioned, at the national level, I will have experiences in Washington, D.C., in Alabama Space Camp. I've been able to go to Santa Clara to work at Google. I have quarterly learning sessions with my national cohort. We meet quarterly at least, if not monthly. I'm making connections with teachers across the United States. So I've been able to do podcasts with somebody from New York. I mean, it's incredible. All these educators are coming together for the greater good. I often get asked what's next, and what is next? Well, my main vision is that I want to stay connected with AEF. They have provided an incredible opportunity for me, so I want to be able to give back to them. I want to be able to pay it forward. I want to make sure that all students of Arizona continue to have their needs met beyond just my 2026 year of service. And so staying connected with the AEF will afford me that opportunity to do that. Through my work with AEF, I have a platform to make sure that my message is being heard and implemented. And so I can continue to spread that message at the national level with my national cohort as well. And I can collaborate with a special education teacher that might be in Alabama and get ideas and ways that I can incorporate things that they're doing there. And honestly, continue to elevate the teaching profession. I am oddly enough, I grew up in private school, and here I am teaching in public school, and I'm a huge advocate for public school. And so I want to continue to use my voice to shed light on the amazing things that are happening again. And I'm so thankful to AEF to giving me this opportunity that I otherwise would not have. So thank you so much for your time today.
Gosh, I feel like we need to applaud. Thank you so much for your presentation and for sharing your leadership. And I suspect we have a couple folks who either have questions or comments. I don't see our full team, but do we have anybody that would like to say anything? Dr. Hagerman.
I just, as a fellow special educator and a former superintendent in Continental, so I was really close to you very recently. I just want to thank you for the work you're doing and for advocating for inclusive practices for all kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Clay, please.
Good morning, and thank you for that wonderful presentation. As you were speaking, I myself, I was thinking about different things that we can do down here in Cochise County, but I did want to share that we did have a Teacher of the Year down here in 2023, and I do applaud AEF because we've also had, what do you call them, ambassadors in 2024, 2019, 2017, 2013. So AEF gets all around this state. I definitely support AEF, and anything that you do and anything that you ever need, please let me know or let us know. But congratulations and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Dr. Cruz Rivera.
I just want to add my congratulations to Dr. Joseph, who received an honorary doctorate degree from NAU just a little bit over a week ago. We are so fortunate to have her in the state, and she is a force of good and will surely help spread excellence across all of our schools. So thank you, Dr. Joseph, for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, I wouldn't have had that opportunity without this incredible honor. So thank you.
Member Katniss.
You are amazing. And we are all so grateful that you are the voice that gets to uplift educators across the state. And I think my absolute favorite thing that you talked about in your presentation, and there's so many glows that happened in your presentation, but I love that you're speaking directly to future educators. That is so important in our state, that they have a role model like you, someone that they could, learn from, someone that they can talk to. And I know at NAU, they do an amazing conference every year at Terriot. And I think it's one of the best things that you get to do as, this voice is you get to look at an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old and say, someday you're going to be this teacher in your classroom. And so thank you for that. Thank you for uplifting this whole profession.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Dr. Cruz-Rivera, do you have another comment or? No.
No, it's just my hand won't go down. I'll figure it out.
I love it. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. Executive Director Ross.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. I was waiting for Member Katniss to speak, but I knew he would be too humble to mention it. He was a candidate for Arizona Teacher of the Year in 2022, and so should be recognized as well because he is as much a rock star teacher as Tiffany. So congratulations, Member Katniss, as well.
Nice job. Well, thank you again for taking the time and educating us on your experience over this last year. We have no doubt that you'll continue to be an incredible ambassador for the education profession and ensuring that all of our kids can thrive. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Can we dismiss now? We've had our kids. Now we've had our teachers of the year. Now we have lots of good things to do. I'm really excited about this next presentation. So Executive Director Ross, item 4B.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. At the request of several board members, we have asked Michelle Udall, who's the Associate Superintendent of School Improvement at ADE, and Natasha Camp, who's their Deputy Associate Superintendent, to come and present on the good work of their team, talk about school improvement funding, and then some of the data related to their schools. So Natasha, Michelle, take it away.
Thank you, President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. We appreciate being here today. I'm Michelle Udall, Associate Superintendent of School Improvement. And this is Natasha Camp, the Deputy Associate Superintendent for School Improvement. It's our pleasure to present, as you requested, about some of the work that we're doing with school improvement. Our school improvement mission statement is that we enhance student achievement by providing responsive service, targeted support, and high quality professional development through effective collaboration and resource management. That's a lot of words, but it's really that we really work hard with schools to provide the supports that they need to help students be successful. And we support all schools that are federally or state identified for school improvement. Schools may be identified either federally or through the state process. This shows you some of the ways that they can be identified. Starting the main or the biggest identification, one of the biggest ones, is that we identify the lowest performing overall achievement. And that's in the middle of the slide here, that comprehensive support and improvement. These schools perform at the bottom 5% of all schools in the state. And that score is made up of achievement and growth and chronic absenteeism and several other factors. So all of those schools are identified for comprehensive support improvement, low achievement. They can also be put in that box for being having a low graduation rate. So any school that graduates fewer than 66.67% of their students in 5 years also falls into that comprehensive support and improvement bucket. Schools can move up or down a level in the improvement process. If a school is identified, any subgroup within a school is identified in the bottom 5%, they are chosen for are identified for additional targeted support and improvement. Subgroups that we work with include 7 racial and ethnic groups and 3 societal indicators required by federal law. So those subgroups are Asian, African, American and Black, American Indian, Alaska Native, Hispanic and Latino, multiple races, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, white, economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, and English language learners. Those are the different subgroups we look at. And if any one subgroup within a school is identified being in the bottom 5% for the state, then they receive that ATSI label. If a school does not exit school improvement within the designated time period, they move up a level. So I started in that middle level, but if they don't exit comprehensive support improvement after 3 years, then they go to more rigorous options where we do more intense work with them. If they are identified for additional targeted support improvement and that subgroup doesn't exit within the designated time frame, they move up to comprehensive support and improvement T. So this kind of shows you what those different identifications are. It's a lot of different identifications for different reasons. But at the end of the day, it's because one or more subgroups of students are not performing at a level that we expect them to. On the state identification side, it's much simpler. If a school receives a D or F, they're automatically in state school or improvement. Schools that are identified for school improvement do have access to funding sources. Most of the funding comes through Title I funding, and that is any of our schools with those labels, the MRO, CSI, ATSI, TSI, the ones we just looked at that were on the left of the slide earlier, have opportunities for grants. A school that is a D or F and is not on that left side may have opportunities for funding as well through the state Failing Schools Tutoring Fund. And any money that is not spent on tutoring from that fund can be used for school improvement. Arizona Department of Education selected the Project Momentum framework for school improvement because of its unparalleled success in Arizona schools under Governor Doug Ducey. From its start in Arizona through 2022, schools in Project Momentum increased their percentage of students testing proficient in math and ELA well above the state average. In fact, they more than doubled the state's improvement in ELA and more than tripled it in math. Project Momentum Arizona is our adopted statewide framework for school improvement. Schools and districts collaborate to align their operational practices with the framework and use the associated evidence-based instructional strategies shown to have the highest impact on increasing student learning. The 3 big inputs of our service model used to make the greatest impact are research-based practices of the Project Momentum Arizona GEARS framework, expert guidance, and targeted teacher support. Natasha's going to share more of those details with you.
Thank you. This is the Project Momentum Arizona GEARS framework. It is the model that guides team collaboration to improve student achievement. Our work begins in GEARS 1, 2, and 3 as they directly impact Tier 1 instruction. So if you look at Gear 1, it asks the question, what do we want our students to know and be able to do? This gear relates directly to our identified state standards. Gear 2 asks, what evidence will we accept that students have learned the required content? Again, assessment of our state standards at the formative and summative level. And Gear 3, what instructional best practices will provide our greatest results? This really is where we're working with teachers as well as administrators to talk about what's happening instructionally in the classroom and how we know that students are learning at high levels. Later, as structures and systems are in place, the focus then moves to Gears 3, 4, and 5. Excuse me, 4, 5, and 6. Gear 4 asks, what will we do if students have not learned what has been instructed? So this is really where we're working with schools and school leaders, as well as principals, to develop structures for intervention and how we will intervene with students who have not yet learned it. Gear 5 is what will we do, or how will we differentiate instruction for students who have already learned it? And that again is where we are supporting with advancement and enrichment of our students. The research behind the GEARS process is twofold. Number one, the DeFore work with professional learning communities. And number two, John Hattie's visible learning research. John Hattie identified high impact instructional strategies that have proven to have the highest effect on student learning. An effect is a quantitative measure that expresses the significance of a given phenomenon. A higher absolute value indicates a larger impact. Hattie determined that strategies with an effect size of 0.4 or greater were correlated with improved student learning. However, a 0.6 or greater effect size was needed for poverty students. Project Momentum strategies effect sizes are 0.75 or higher and as high as 1.57. These powerful approaches are combined in the first 4 gears of the Project Momentum Arizona framework, and they form the foundation for transforming schools. Gear 6 is about saving the work and sharing best practices with each other across the district and across the state. This means that districts and schools can leverage successful resources from one another. We call this their playbook. The playbook is arranged around the 6 gears, and it outlines steps each stakeholder will take to improve student outcomes. The implementation of the framework is supported by expert guidance. Our districts and schools receive school improvement services at our highest levels and are assigned a district coach. This district coach directly supports district leaders. They communicate with them monthly and visit the school and the district level 2 days per year. They support the work of principals and principal-partner relationship. They support development and implementation of quarterly goals, and they help to approve proposed grant expenditures to ensure alignment to the district's integrated action plans and the Project Momentum gears. Each school is also assigned a Project Momentum principal partner as expert guidance. The principal partner serves as a thought partner, coach, and accountability partner to the principal in order to plan and implement the 90-day quarterly goal plans to improve teacher effectiveness and student achievement outcomes. The principal partner meets with the assigned principal virtually every 2 weeks and in person 6 days throughout the school year. Together, they observe classrooms, looking for high quality instruction, collaborative teams in action, and student learning artifacts to monitor progress towards goals. With our expert guidance, we also have targeted support. The LEA and the school integrated action plans are uploaded yearly to ADE. Within the identified action steps, strategies are aligned to our GEARS framework. Using backwards design, district coaches and principal partners support the LEA and schools to chunk the work into smaller portions. A 90-day plan is developed for each district and school that aligns to the integrated action plan. These 90-day plans are called District Quarterly Implementation Goals and School Quarterly Implementation Goals. At the end of each quarter and at the end of the year, school leadership teams evaluate the results of the quarterly goals and integrated action plan goals to determine new goals and/or continue goals for the next quarter. This cycle continues throughout the school year. The principals cannot do all of this work alone, and teachers are already working hard. The school level funds assigned to the district help principals to engage teacher leaders and incentivize the instructional staff to do the hard work that is needed to move the school forward. This slide shows an example of process of leveraging school funds from concept to approval to product and payment of teachers for off-contract work because this work is so very important. An additional targeted support is a balanced assessment system. A balanced assessment system is designed to provide a comprehensive view of student learning and to support effective teaching and learning. It is pertinent for teachers to understand what students know and can do in order to provide effective instruction. Therefore, balanced assessment systems must include both formal and informal opportunities for students to demonstrate their current level of mastery towards the standards. As additional targeted support, ADE has invested in offering the Navi Suite to schools in school improvement and to all schools in the state of Arizona. Navi is a suite of standards-based classroom assessments designed to provide real-time data to teachers. Instructors can immediately see which specific skills and concepts teachers have mastered and which ones need additional support. This capability aligns closely with the Project Momentum Arizona emphasis on data-driven decision-making, allowing educators to quickly identify and address performance gaps. Other examples of targeted support include professional development based on the gears and focus of each school, followed up by implementation by the principal partner. Virtual collaborative teams for teachers as needed, especially in our rural communities where they only have singletons at each grade level. And next year, this year we piloted it, but next year we'll be going full blown. We will provide virtual principal collaborative teams. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle to talk about results.
So knowing the system is important, but what really matters is whether or not it's working, right? So we'd like to share some of the results. There have been some bumps along the road. As you know, a few years ago, there was some issue with some of the federal funding. That has since been resolved, and the funding moving forward seems to be in a good place. We're always at the mercy of what happens with the federal and state funding. So in 2022, there were 90 schools designated in that CSI. So that bottom 5% of schools was 90 schools. By 2025, all but 20 of those had exited. So 79% of the schools were able to exit the bottom 5% and stay out of the bottom 5% in our next identification. When we look at our additional targeted support and improvement subpopulations, so the groups that had been in the bottom 5% for one subgroup, there were 1,213 identified, and within 3 years, there were only 256 left. So again, that's around 78 to 79% of the schools were able to exit. You were going to talk about this.
Sure. From this slide shows from the baseline year. So I just want to remind you that we are. Oh, sorry. Okay. I was like, should we stop? Okay. I just want to remind you that we are working with the bottom 5% of schools across the state. So from the baseline year of 23-24 to the first year of implementation, 24-25, schools receiving our highest level of service with the use of the Project Momentum framework were able to reduce schools with negative ELA trends from 57% to 52%. That's a reduction of 5 percentage points. And from the baseline year to the first year of implementation in mathematics, with a negative math trend, we were able to reduce that from 62% to 44%. In addition to stopping that downward trend, 80% of our schools have achieved an increase in at least one subject area. I would also like to let you know that this past year, 106 schools completely exited school improvement.
So meaning that 106 schools were able to get rid of all of their school improvement designations in the past year.
Well, how does that work with if we were looking at 90 from 2022 to 20 and 2025, looking at slide 13, and then how do we get to A hundred and
That's a
six.
great question. So the 90 was just the
Yeah.
CSI schools. So 90 was CSI. When we looked at the ATSI, remember there were 1,213 designations. A lot of times these are multiple, or schools have multiple designations. So they may have 2 or 3 ATSI and a CSI designation. So the number of schools in school improvement is much higher than just the 90 that are in CSI. That's just one category.
Question, Deb, sorry to jump in, but looking at the slide with ATSI, that one with 12, 13, that's the subpopulation groups. That's all the different designations. Do we know actually how many schools would be in that number?
President Haley, I can get that number for you. I don't have it in front of me. I believe any way we looked at it, it was about 80% got out.
80%.
So of the number of schools, of the number of classifications in the various ones, it all came out to 78 to 80% in each of them. So I can get that number for you though. One of the other things that we're most excited about is that we have started to see a real improvement among our native serving schools, our predominantly native serving schools. And in fact, we know that they were hit very hard with COVID and saw some significant declines. So this past year, we were able to celebrate some real gains. The following districts more than doubled the number of students testing proficient, or the percentage of students testing proficient in math from the previous school year to the last year. Ganado Unified School District saw a 159% increase in students testing proficient in math. Red Mesa saw a 149% increase. Babokiveri, 197% increase. Kianta, 122% increase. And Sackatone Elementary District, 124% increase. And Tuba City, 113% increase. So many of those went from very low performance rates to much higher. There's still a lot of work to do with those, but we're very excited to see that improvement among those predominantly native serving districts. The work's not done. We have a lot left to do. We have a long ways to go. School improvement is not a quick process. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of long, dedicated work, and we're really grateful to have this opportunity to do that work. And we're very grateful for the professionals that are helping with the work, the principal partners and the district coaches that spend so much time coaching and working with those districts. And we're happy to answer whatever questions you have.
I'm quite confident there's lots of questions, and I already see Dr. Clay's hand up. So, and then Member Kervikis, I think. Yeah. So, Dr. Clay.
Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning.
First of all, I want to give kudos to you and your team. I have seen firsthand and through others, I've heard of all the wonderful things you've done. Thank you for your support of all these schools that are struggling. Thank you for your patience, because sometimes they want to hide from you, not because they don't like you, but because they're feeling some sort of way, you know, because of this. And I think you truly understand their heart and you don't make them feel bad. And again, I've seen that firsthand. My question or comment, just to help evolve what we're doing, because we're a team, do you include the county soups in as part of your improvement plan? For example, when you have these schools that are on your list and you go down and visit them, do you kind of take a visit or do a Zoom with the county superintendents so that they can put another layer of support and inspiration to these schools?
Dr. Clay, thank you for that. We haven't been, but I think that that's a great suggestion and something we can definitely look into, is including county superintendents in some of those visits. At least we do talk about stakeholders a lot. So when we create implementation plan or help the schools to do their implementation plans, they are required to include stakeholders. And one of the stakeholders they are required is a government official of some sort. And so that would be a fantastic place to be involved from the beginning and to have them reach out to their county superintendents from the beginning of in the planning phase, to know where the superintendents like you can give great support to them throughout the process.
Thank you, Michelle, because I know sometimes they drop off the plate, and what happens is they kind of hide from us. All right. So now, as you were speaking, I went and looked up. I have one, right? They're in the corner around the, now I'm going to go and hey, do you need any help? But I will tell you, when a county soup asks that, a lot of times the answer is no. All right. This is where we need to partner with you, and you give us that report, and you even let us look at the NAVI information, because we have small school funds. We have other things that we can throw in that pot with you, and to elevate them, to inspire them, to motivate them. And I'm also speaking for the other county soups in the state. We would love to partner with you. And lastly, would you please, at our next quarterly meeting, I think it's in July, I would really like you to present to them, and we come up with some sort of strategy and plan to evolve and move this forward. You have done a great job, you and your team. Now we just want to add a little bit and evolve even more. But thank you very much for all that you do.
Great. Thank you.
I think Superintendent Horn had a quick comment.
Yes,
Dr. Clay.
A number of those county superintendents have been paying very close attention to the tremendous results this initiative has been getting. And one example I want to cite is Yavapai County, where the county superintendent was so impressed with the results they were getting with schools that were at the bottom end, that he went to the Board of Supervisors and asked them for funding to give Project Momentum at all the schools in Yavapai County, and they passed it, and they now have the benefit of Project Momentum for all their schools, not just the ones in the bottom 5%. And so that was a tremendous development, I thought, and it's good to see county superintendents alert in that way.
Yes. Thank you.
Member Kravickas.
Thank you, Madam President. Hello, Michelle, how are you? Nice to see you. Thank you for coming. I have a question about the NAVI assessment system. One is, I'm pretty sure that on the MOUR, the Move On When Reading, literacy plans also have to have some kind of a formative assessment system submitted. Are we assuring that there's alignment there?
Thank you for that question, Member Kravickas. So NAVI is made by the same company that does our statewide assessment. And so these benchmarks and the tests are only in grades 3 through 8. Do we have 3 through 12 for the formatives?
K-12.
Sorry. Oh, they are K-12. I'm going to let Natasha answer this question because she has more of the details there.
Sure. The assessment suite is available kindergarten through 12th grade. The NAVI assessment suite may not meet the requirements of the diagnostic assessment. I just looked at Linda Burrows for that information. The intention of use of the NAVI assessment really was, once the essential standards were rolled out by ADE and identified, we wanted an assessment that was aligned directly to those standards. And we wanted our teachers to be able to assess the standards along the way throughout the school year and not be surprised by how students were doing on AASA. So you'll hear us say a lot of times, we want students to practice like they play. We want to expose them to test items and item types that are similar to how they would be tested on the end of year assessment, but throughout the year where teachers can actually monitor and adjust instruction along the way.
Thank you. It seems like that is a really good opportunity, though, for alignment, especially when I think of the resources that districts have to spend for formative and benchmark assessments. If designation of school improvement means that they get that additional resource, it seems like it would be really great if it could also, I don't want to say count for, but be utilized for the MOUR requirements as well, even if you're the teachers themselves, so they're not using different systems.
We're going to let Linda Burrows speak to that.
Thank you.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, Member Kravickas. So that would be great. However, the Navi system actually is measuring the standards, and those standards are separate, and it's something different from measuring a student's proficiency in their reading ability. So what those systems are, what we count in MAUR with our screeners and our diagnostics are measuring one set of items, whereas Navi is measuring something different, which is our Arizona state standards. So they are actually doing two separate things.
So, Member Kravickas, if this helps clarify, Navi would be more like comprehension, standards-based.
Correct.
Where a diagnostic is really going to parse out the other four
Phonemic
components
awareness,
of early literacy. Yeah.
reading fluency, none of that is assessed in Navi, but it is assessed in those MAUR diagnostics and screeners.
Well, that's kind of unfortunate, but hopefully though, you're also able to work together internally that we're seeing, like if the schools are making incredible growth in Navi and going that we're seeing that parallel growth on the K-3 side. Cause I mean, obviously they all go hand in hand. So it'd be great if we could see that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I have another question though. How is the Navi system, is it universally designed? How accessible is it to all learners? Under federal law, they require everything to be universally designed, but we never actually ask those questions and see if they are. And I think we have it in our MAUR rules as well too.
Yes, so I'll speak to that. Yes, it is accessible to all learners, and the accessibility features that are available on AASA are identical to that of Navi.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Hagerman.
So two questions. The first one, when we talked about the safety grants, we had a clear difference between the requested funds and the available funds. Do you have any ideas of the difference between, when you look at those competitive grants, what would be like the amount of money people are requesting versus what you have available to allocate?
That's an excellent question. Thank you. We have really narrowed what they can use the school improvement funds for. In the past, it was very open on what they could use it for, and we've really narrowed it to only things directly tied to their improvement plan. And then we look at what funding we have and we allocate it on kind of a tiered level depending on the size of the school. So we are not getting requests above what we have because we've already kind of pre-constructed it in a way to fund the things that most need to be funded.
So, I mean, the second question, but before that, I appreciate the kind of move from a compliance orientation to an action orientation. And then the work that you're picking is the work that other districts are doing, not in school improvement. So it's not like the work of a school improvement situation is different than the work of a school. I mean, if you're doing learning communities, you're doing collaboration, you're looking at Hattie's work. So I appreciate that. The last thing, if you can give it to Sean to send to us, I would love to see the schools that are currently in Project Momentum, just so I can like snoop at websites and just see the work that they're doing and just kind of keep track of the successes that I hope that they're having. Thank you.
We can do that. One thing I will say is that when we say in Project Momentum, that means using the framework, and all of our schools improvement are in using the framework. And then we have conversations about, does in Project Momentum mean getting the highest level of service, or so we can send that to you, but
there's
it'll
like
be a
that
range.
differentiation.
Working on that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I just had a few questions. So thank you so much. It's been a while since we've been able to see you and hear the latest and hear some updates. Just a question, Member Kravickas mentioned it briefly, but I'm curious, how does Project Momentum interact with, say, our K-3 literacy requirements? You know, to sustain change, it's one thing to change behavior and sort of change professional practice, but also using science of reading and making sure that that's incorporated. I'm curious, how are you guys embedding things that are uniquely Arizona into Project Momentum so it's sustained for the future?
Thank you for that question. So when they implement their improvement plans or their interactive active or their IAPs, I always forget what that stands for, integrated action plans, That includes goals, and especially for K2, it includes goals around literacy. It includes some of their move on when reading goals. That kind of stuff is included. So then when they do their 90-day plans, we're chunking that into smaller pieces. So whatever the goals are for that school to both get out of and stay out of school improvement, we're working on those goals. We're not always doing the same goals for every school. It's really dependent on what the needs are. And in many of these cases, the K2 literacy is one of the main goals at the school. And so that's what we work towards.
Have you been able to see that those schools have gone through, say, DIBELS training? Are you seeing a higher adoption of the K through 5 literacy credential? Like, I'm just curious if in that action plan, is there also sort of this movement toward training and preparation ahead of the curve before 2028?
Yes, we are definitely moving them in that direction. I haven't pulled data yet to see that
Yeah,
specifically.
I will also say that we work hand in hand with the standards unit, with Linda Burrows and her directors and specialists. So they know exactly the schools that are in school improvement. We are able to see if their malware plans have been approved. So a lot of collaboration and communication across departments within the agency for schools that are in school improvement.
Is there also an effort to ensure that the schools are adopting curricula that align with state standards as well as our expectations? This goes to the ongoing conversation about malware and malware. Are our school districts having aligned curricula that is including phonics, science, or reading, et cetera?
So the very first gear in Project Momentum is what are students supposed to be learning and know how to do? And it's really looking at what are the standards and is that what we're teaching? And so that is gear number 1 in Project Momentum, is ensuring that we're aligning both to the standards, to science of reading, to what the students need to be learning to be successful. So that's gear number 1. And then gear number 2 is how we're assessing that to make sure that they're learning it. And then gear 3 is, are we teaching it in a way that they need to be taught it to learn it? So that is really probably our main focus, is making sure that kids are being taught those things and learning in a way that they can learn it.
And sort of one more thing, looking at your principal partner slide, during we had a K through 3 sort of study group during 2024, and one of the findings was principals often do not have a literacy endorsement or a background in literacy. Many times they come from middle school or high school, but they're now maybe a principal of a elementary school district or an elementary school. And the consequences, they might be providing feedback, but it might not be in the best instructional practices. How does Project Momentum help equip our principals to make sure that they understand best practices in all the different subjects in order to equip their educators, not just through this period that they're in the school improvement grant, but on into the future?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So I'll give a scenario. I'm currently a principal partner. I have the honor and privilege of working with a couple of school districts here in Arizona. So when I'm working with principals and I'm observing instruction with them, the very first thing we are looking for is, what are the students doing and how is that related to the identified essential standard? A lot of times a principal cannot hold in their head, nor should they have to hold in their head, all of the standards for every single grade level and every subject. So I do use a handy dandy app. And they usually do too. And we are looking together, right? What do we think the identified essential standard or standard for the day is? What does that standard specifically ask students to know and be able to do at the proficient level? Which is key because that means we're at the correct level of difficulty, right? A lot of times we might be observing instruction that is at the minimally or partially proficient level, and we really have to move our teachers to the proficient level of the standard. So that is side by side coaching with a principal and sitting down with them and saying, identify the standard. What does it say students should be able to do? Were students doing that in the classroom?
That's great.
Yes or no? And if not, then we need to build capacity of the teachers. And that's really where our collaboration with standards and assessment within the agency come. If we need further expert guidance, we're going to them to bring in the masters of the standards. And again, that is a service that the Department of Education provides for all of our schools in the state of Arizona.
That's great. There was, I'll let Superintendent Horn in a second. There was a report by the New Teacher Project in 2017 called The Opportunity Myth, and how many educators will tell their kids you are on grade level, but the curriculum and the standard by which they're teaching is 3 grade levels behind. So do you find also that you're helping to change mindsets where individuals have been designated in the bottom 5%? But their kids have every, like, equality of opportunity. Brilliance is everywhere.
Right.
We just have to be able to help inspire and nurture and help train that. And so is there also a bit of helping to inspire the educators and the leaders, like, yeah, absolutely you can, and actually not just meet the benchmark, but far exceed it? And what does that look like?
Yes, there's definitely a mind shift, I would say, happening. And that's also one of the reasons we wanted to make sure we were partnering to provide free formative assessment throughout the state of Arizona so that teachers can experience those small wins. We're, no pun intended, creating momentum, right, as quickly as we can, because they need to feel success. And once they do feel success as a teacher and also as students, right, then we are continuing to create that momentum faster and faster. I will say that also a mind shift is the textbook and fidelity to the textbook. Is something that we are continuing to work on, because we are teaching to the standards and not the textbook. The textbook is a vehicle, right? Or the adopted resource is a vehicle to teach the standards, but ultimately our measurement is the standards at the proficient level.
Superintendent Horn, you had a comment?
Yes, you raise an important question. What happens when the principal, who is supposed to be helping the teachers with their teaching and judging the quality of their teaching, doesn't have the necessary skills to do that? And the board may wish to hear from another one of our divisions that has a massive training program on leadership. They started out with classes where they asked them at the end, would you recommend this to your colleagues? 99% said yes. The word spread. They were under tremendous pressure. They greatly increased the number of classes available, and it's become a truly massive program. And the trainers are really excellent in training the principals in leadership skills.
I'll just add to that through Effective Teachers and Leaders, and specifically the Principal Leadership Academy, any of our schools that are in school improvement that attend or their principal is attending the Principal Leadership Academy, our assigned principal partners remain their mentor. So they are not provided a different mentor, right? That's too many touches, right, for one person. So if Michelle is the principal that I'm supporting, then I'm actually joining her in the Principal Leadership Academy, and we're continuing our work together through the Principal Leadership Academy, which is through our Effective Teachers and Leaders, led by Sid Bailey.
Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're really grateful that you came in to present today. I know that, yeah. Executive Director Ross, did you have a question?
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, I was just going to suggest the board take a 5-minute break.
Okay, we can do that. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
We'll reconvene at about 11:20.
Member Rivera I'm sorry, Dr. Rivera and Dr. Clay, if you guys can turn your cameras on just to make sure we have quorum. Thank you.
I think we are close to quorum.
We're okay now.
Okay, great. Awesome. Now we're really grateful for that presentation and okay, we're now going to move on to item 4C. Executive Director Ross, we've been doing a lot of work on the A through F.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. As you all know, the board has undertaken a comprehensive review and revision process of the A through F school letter grade system. That process is based on holding study sessions for each indicator, led in large part by Sean Smith from the department. So thank you to Sean, where the board attends, learns about the indicator, raises questions. Staff turns those questions into prompts. The board then votes on those prompts to send them to the technical advisory committees to investigate, model, and then to make recommendations, which will come back to the board. At this point, we've had one cycle of those recommendations coming back to the board. More will be coming soon. This is the next in that iteration. We held the study session for CCRI, College and Career Readiness, last month. And prompts were generated. Thank you to Dr. Hagerman for doing it in the actual study session. That was very helpful. So this is the board voting to send those to the TACs, and I'm available if there are any questions.
Any questions from the board? Dr. Hagerman.
Hey, Sean, just one question. As we go through the timeline of starting to put all these pieces together, can you just kind of walk us through what's coming up and like when do we see the whole package?
Of course. President Haley, Superintendent Horn, Dr. Hagerman, members of the board. So we have a study session scheduled for May 25th, I believe, on acceleration readiness. There will be one more study session potentially for bonus points. And then that will have ended the study sessions for indicators. And we will then move into study sessions devoted to looking at the weights of the system, cut scores within indicators, and then cut scores for the system itself. Based on our current timeline, that work should resolve in the late fall. So maybe the October meeting is what we're targeting at the moment.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Great.
Sorry, the just for anybody listening, the acceleration readiness study session, which is virtual and as all others have been, will be Wednesday, May 27th. Thank you, Bruce.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. With that, are there any other comments or questions? Otherwise, I'd like to make a motion. Okay. I'd like to make a motion. Oh, Dr. Clay?
President Haley, I just have a comment. The session was amazing, and I've shared that with as many people as possible. There was so much. I love the part about the blue points, the purple points, and the red points. Now we have a code down here about the blue, the purple, and the red points as far as CCRI. And it was a great session, and I think a lot of people other than ourselves got a lot out of it. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Dr. Clay. Sean Smith in here just turned to beet red. He was delighted about your point reference and delighted. Okay, well, with that, if it's okay, I'd like to, do I have a motion that the board direct the A through F technical advisory committees to investigate, model, and make recommendations to the board on potential revisions to the CCRI or the College Career and Readiness Indicator of the A through F summative letter grade system as presented?
So moved.
Dr. Clay makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Dr. Hagerman makes a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Awesome. We're now going to move to item 3D, and our legislative director is not here. So we'll wait for a second. I did have, we will have a session momentarily in executive session. And I'm wondering from an order perspective, if we could move items 5, 6, and 7 up, and then we can go back to item 4E.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, that is absolutely within your purview. So the board always has the ability to change the order of items. So
I can't remember. Do I need to do a motion for that?
they don't need to do a motion. No, President Haley, you don't need to make a motion to move items. But to clarify for the record, so we will do item 4D and then item 5, item 6, item 7, and then circle back to 4E.
Exactly. Thank you.
Perfect. So Deputy Director Yanez, item 4D.
Good afternoon, President Haley, Vice President Hagerman, members of the board. I do not have a legislative update today, so I'll let us move through this agenda item, and hopefully there will be one for next month.
Do you have a crystal ball that will dictate of when we will get a budget?
I could, but I think that Member Hagerman's guess would be as good as mine, and yours also as well. So if anybody wants to just kind of come up with any sort of dreams, wishes, we could speak it into the public meeting, and maybe it'll come true.
Hopefully sooner than later. Okay, well, great. Well, thank you. Any legislative questions from members of the board? Okay, then what I would like to do is move us to item 5. This is the call. We'll come back to item 4E as in Edward. We'll move to item 5. This is the call to public. This is the time for the public to comment on items listed in the educator discipline section of the agenda. And with that, Executive Director, Deputy Director Duplanty, have we received any requests to speak?
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, there have been no requests to speak for this item.
Okay, thank you. We're now going to move to item 6. This is the consent agenda for enforcement actions. We'd like to take these in a single motion. Are there any items for the consent agenda for the enforcement actions that a board member would like to pull and discuss? Okay, seeing that there are none, what I'd like to do is, do I have a motion to approve items 6A1 through 6A3, 6B1 through 6B14, 6C1, 6D1, 6D2, and 6E1?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Superintendent Horn seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to item 7. This is the general session for certification enforcement actions. Again, we'd like to take this in a single motion. Are there any items from the general session for enforcement actions that a board member would like to pull and discuss? Seeing that there are none, I'd like to have a motion to approve items 7A1 through 7A4.
I'll make that motion.
Dr. Hagerman makes a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Dr. Clay seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, the motion carries. So with this, we'd like to go back to item 4E. This is I'd like to make a motion for the board to enter executive session.
President Haley,
Yes.
Superintendent Horn, members of the board, prior to making the motion to go into executive session, I need to preview the item.
Okay. Executive Director Ross, would you like to preview the item 4E? Sorry.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Item 4E is related to the board receiving the draft A through F school accountability system audit report from the Office of the Auditor General. The Auditor General's office is conducting a performance audit of the Arizona Department of Education, As part of that performance audit, they are auditing the A through F school accountability system, which the board has obviously a large role in overseeing. So the board is part of that audit. The audit has been in place for quite a while. The board was first notified of its role in it towards the end of December, first met with the Auditor General's office in early January, and then has met with that office several times to discuss potential findings, potential recommendations. As the report is in draft form, board staff had not seen the report in any fashion. The draft report was shared with the board Friday evening, and the members of the Auditor General's office are here today to present an executive summary of that report to the board. The reason we need to go into executive session is because the report is not public. It's embargoed until it is published. So just to set some context. Also, for a little bit further context, the board will go into executive session first, and then we will invite the members from the Auditor General's office in after a set period of time.
Okay. Well, then what I'd like to do is have a motion for the board to enter executive session, which will not be open to the public, for the discussion or consideration of records exempt by law from public inspection.
I'll make that motion.
Dr. Hagerman, do I have a second? Member Katney seconds. He was having a quick snack. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing that there are none, the motion carries. So for members of the public, we will be going into executive session now, and we'll be back.
For those members who are online, Melissa has sent you a link to Google Meets. So you'll exit this Zoom meeting, go into the Google Meets link for eSession, and then you'll exit Google Meets and come back for Zoom to wrap this meeting up. Thank you.
Yes, we have everybody. Great. Okay, that was great. For those that are still with us, thank you. Margaret's still here.
Yes.
Uh,
Thank you, Margaret.
Thanks for enduring. Exactly. You're probably wondering. All right. With that, we are moving to item 8. Executive Director Ross.
President Haley, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, thank you for another productive meeting. Our next meeting is June 22nd. It is not the last Monday of June. It is the 4th Monday of June. So just be careful there because June has 5 Mondays. It's June 22nd at 9 o'clock. And hope everybody has wonderful end of the school year and a wonderful month. And we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for a productive meeting. This meeting adjourns at 1:02.